got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, Punk?
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I get into the deck list, if you're enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you want to see some more selection pack content, as I still have a whole bunch planned. I've already done Sprite, I've already done Dark Magician, this is going to be a Punk video, I still have Exosystem, Morphtronic, I have Dynamorphia with a brand new Synchro card, which by the way is also featured in this deck list. I have Illusion Libromancer, Illusion Spiral, maybe some sort of other Illusion variants, or even some other Sprite variants such as Ojama Sprite. So if you want to see any of that content, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing down below so you don't miss out. Alright, let's get into the deck list. So I know most of you guys probably haven't played Punk before, at least not until you've seen the new selection pack stuff, so I kind of want to sort of go through every card in here, not just the new cards, so you guys have sort of a brief rundown on basically what this deck list does. Alright, so we have 7 main deck monsters, with the first one being your Sharakusai. This card is basically going to be a substitute for a polymerization sort of effect, and also has a quick effect to be able to synchro summon during your opponent's turn, both of which just cost 600 life points to activate. Then we have your Wagon. This card is pretty damn simple, you just pay life points to be able to search for a spell card from your deck. All of them have sort of some bonus effects too, by the way, but you won't encounter them too often. You can read them yourself if you like, but I'm just going to sort of skim over them because they're not the important effects of the card. Alright, then we have your Madame Spider, which is pretty similar to your last card, only it searches for your trap cards. Then we have your Z-Admin. This one pays 600 to search for any of your Punk monsters in your deck list at all. Very, very insane card, and is one of your main starters. These are the 2 main starters in your deck list, by the way, and going to feature in the 2 combos I show you. Then we have your Dear Note, which is the brand new edition. This card has 2 effects, and unlike the other ones, both are really, really important. So this card, you can reveal 1 Punk monster in your hand, special summon either the revealed monster, or this card, and send the other to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 Punk monster in your graveyard except a level 5 monster, special summon it. So very important to note, because when you do your synchro summon using this card, you can then bring back one of your other Punk monsters from the graveyard. Very important to note, allows you to synchro climb really damn easily. Then we have your Foxy tune. Once per turn, you can ignore the first effect of this card, you can look it up in your own time if you like. The important effect of this card is, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to send 1 card from your hand or to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon 1 Punk monster from your deck except a level 8 monster. So you can send this card and another card from your hand to the graveyard to summon out a Punk from the deck. So another easy way to get a hold of either your Searcher or getting a hold of your Sharakusai to do your Fusion Summon or your Synchro Summon. Then we have your Ogre Dancer, who is pretty similar to this card, is that it's going to be another search card. Basically, you can just discard this card to add any of your Punk monsters from your deck straight to your hand. And again, it also has a bonus effect, but you can read that on your own time. Next up, we have the Spell and Trap cards, with the first one being your insane card, Your Jam. This card is ridiculous. It reminds me a lot of the sort of value generation that you get from things like Decode or Kahiso, where this card will just draw you a ridiculous amount of cards. There's a reason you have so many hand traps in this deck, is because this card will draw you 3 cards. So basically, once per turn, you can banish 1 Punk monster card from your graveyard to special summon a Punk monster from your hand. If a psychic monster you control paid life points to activate its effect, you can draw 1 card. You can use each effect of Punk Jam Extreme Session up to twice per turn. So essentially when this is on the field, you activate a copy of your searching monster, you'll draw a card. You activate a copy of your searcher for your trap card or your spell card, you'll draw a card. Then it will pass over to your opponent's turn, you'll use your quick effect from your Sharakusai to then sort of synchro summon, and that will actually pay life points, so you'll get to draw yet another card. So you just drew 3 cards from your main combo of the deck list, you just drew 3 extra cards, which could be just 3 extra hand traps. Also important to note that when the turn passes back to you, it's not like this field spell just sort of fizzles out, you can then just do it all again to draw even more cards. So if you sort of set up a decent board with this deck list, sort of disrupts your opponent playing the game, pass back to you, you're gonna have sort of follow-up plays. It's basically inevitable with the amount of draw this deck list has. Then we have the trap card for the deck. Now the reason we're running one trap card is as part of your main combo, you just end up searching for a trap card, so you might as well run a nice disruption trap card, so we're running one copy. Now keep in mind, this is a choice to make here, because I'm choosing to run the surprise. Surprise is basically just a target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. But you could also use a negate. You can use Dangerous, which targets one of your opponent's monsters and negates it, but doesn't destroy it. So I prefer this card personally, as destroying your opponent's card mean they can't sort of extend further or link plays or whatever else with the monster left on the field, can't use this like fusion material or something. So generally I prefer to have the destroy effect rather than the negate effect, but depending on whatever meta you're in, maybe there's a meta that pops up where your opponent's normal summon becomes absolutely vital that you negate it, then of course you can swap it out and run a copy of your Dangerous instead. Either of these works, none of them is particularly insanely worse than the other, it's just sort of a preference thing anyway, but keep that in mind. If you want to negate, you can run it. If you want destruction, you can run it. But you probably only want to run one of them because you're only ever going to really search for one trap card during your duel. Next up, we have the extra deck, where I'm going to be going through 4 cards, your 3 Punk cards, and of course the brand new Synchro monster, which you're going to be using very, very actively in this particular deck list. Alright, so first of all, we have your Rising Carp. This card is really good for this deck list simply because you summon this card, you activate its effect using one of your other Punk cards in hand, and you instantly fuse this thing out. Then you can use its effect to attribute itself to summon 2 Punks straight from the deck, to then further extend and search for them, go into whatever you need to go into. It also has a nice little bonus effect, is if it's used as Synchro material, it can make a Punk Synchro monster you have on the field be able to attack twice, which when you've got a 3000 attack Synchro monster, will probably lead to some sort of lethal. Alright, then we have your Jam Dragon Drive. This card, when it's Synchro summoned, just basically to search for a Psychic monster level 3 straight from your deck list, which also includes, other than just your Punk cards, your Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Generally, your main combo will mean you'll be searching for Madame with it, as you'll see during the replays, but if you already have this card in hand, keep in mind, you can search for a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit with it, which is a great hand trap, which I'm sure you've all read before. And the last effect of this card is if your opponent activates a card in response to one of your Punk effect activations, you can special summon this big ass boss monster straight back from your graveyard. Then we have your Amazing Dragon. If this card is Synchro summoned, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of level 3 Psychic monsters with different names you control and in the graveyard, return them to hand. So generally with this card as part of your main combo, you'll be getting 3 removals with this, so 3 cards your opponent controls just sent straight back into their hand. Alright, then this card has a second effect, where you can target one Punk monster in your graveyard, accept itself, special summon it to the field. But keep in mind, you can only use one effect of this dragon once per turn, so you can't use its removal effect and then also revive a monster. You can only use one or the other, which does come up as you'll see during the replays. Generally, you can be summoning this during your opponent's turn when you're going first to remove their stuff, but going second, you might want to do a different line of play, which again, you'll see during the combo portion. And finally, we have your Psychic End Punisher. This card is really fun. It's going to be seen in quite a few videos of mine from now on. Basically, while your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this Synchro Summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects, so already off to a banger. But then it only has one weakness, and that is it could be destroyed by battle still. Well, once per turn you can pay 1000 life points to target one monster your opponent controls and one card your opponent controls, banish them. At the start of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's. So essentially in a deck like Punk, where you're already negativing like a billion life points already, this card will get like 4000 attack on top of its already 3500. Plus, it's also gaining attack from its own effect of being able to destroy cards on your field to destroy your opponent's. So this card can be anywhere of like 7 to 8000, maybe even like 10,000 attack if you like. Meaning this card, obviously, it's a really nice addition for this particular deck list. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the deck list portion of the video. The rest of the deck list is all just your standard sort of hand trappy sort of stuff and random ass extra deck stuff. I'm sure you can sort of work it out on your own. Everything else in this deck list that I haven't sort of covered isn't really core, outside of maybe, of course, the emergency teleports, which are your searches for your dudes. Everything else is sort of replaceable, so if you want to swap something out for different hand traps or different extra deck monsters, go right ahead. Just sort of don't touch the cards I've sort of mentioned, because they're sort of core to the deck list. Alright guys, the rest of this video is going to be showing off some fantastic combos for this deck list, and without further ado, let's get into the replays. Alright, let's get into the combos. So, don't let other people fool you. A lot of people will tell you that Punk is an extremely hard deck list because there's just a ridiculous amount of combos and a ridiculous amount of end boards you can go on. There's entire Google spreadsheets you can use to sort of look at all these different end boards and combos you can make. But in general, that's only if you want to have a high skill ceiling with this deck list, as there is a lot of different end boards you can go into, depending on what matchups you know you're against, if you're in tournament play or whatever, and different tech cards you can run. But in general, Punk actually has a relatively low skill sort of floor, in that, or high skill floor, whichever one it is that means this deck isn't that hard. Basically, this deck list has 2 combos you can do, which sort of just cover the main basics of this deck, and you can do those combos basically every duel and cover most situations with them. You don't really need to learn all that other sort of advanced stuff. You can if you like, but like I said, that just raises your skill ceiling. It doesn't really matter to just be able to play this deck list in general. So I'm going to be showing you the 2 main combos for this deck list right now. Alright, so the first one is just going to be using a single copy of your Sharakusai in combination with any other Punk monster at all. Literally any other one, doesn't matter which. Alright, so summon out your Punk. Use effect. Fusion summon using your Punk in hand. It doesn't matter which one you have in hand, it could be whatever. By the way, we should pretend the rest of my hand is just absolute bricks. Just pretend everything else in my hand is all just hand traps or something. Alright, summon my Rising Carp. It's probably a good idea, by the way, to put your Rising Carp in defensive position, by the way. It's only got 1000 attack, so if it gets impermed or something, that'd be not too great. Alright, from there, you're going to summon out your copy of Dear Note in combination with your Wagon. Bring them both in defense over here. Activate your Wagon's effect. This will give you a search for your field spell, which is one of the most sort of insane value cards I've seen printed in quite a while. This card is ridiculous. Alright, so activate this card. This card will end up drawing you, by the end of this combo by the way, 3 extra cards. That's pretty crazy. And if the turn passes back to you, that's just a bunch more you're going to be drawing with it. Alright, it also has a bonus effect that comes with it, but we'll see that in a second. Alright, now we're going to go into our Synchro Summon of our Jam. This will give us 2 effects, a Surge and a Special Summon back from the graveyard thanks to your Dear Note. Alright, so we're going to chain block the Jam Dragon because we don't want to get Ash Blossom, of course, by using the Dear Note second. This will bring back a card from graveyard, which is going to be your Punk dude. Very important to use this guy in particular because you want his quick effect during your opponent's turn. Alright, put him in defense over here. Giving you a search, grabbing a hold of your Madame Spider. Alright. Getting a search because you paid life points for a Punk. Or sorry, not a search, a draw. Alright, now you can activate your field spells effect, banishing your Dear Note, to summon out your Madame from hand. Then you can use her effect to search for your trap card. Now, in my deck building, you'll notice I've added this trap card. There's 2 you can choose from. You probably only want to play 1 of them each, but generally you only want to play just 1 of these cards. There's this card, which will just target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it, or you can use the one that targets one of your opponent's monsters and negates it. I prefer the destroy effect because it doesn't actually allow your opponent to keep that monster on field. If the other trap card was a negate and a destroy, you'd 100% use it over this, but it isn't, so it just means if you keep their monster on field, they might be able to just use it for link material or just extend using it or whatever, so I just prefer to have the destruction effect, but it's completely up to you if you run the other trap card, which I've completely forgotten the name of, so you have to look it up yourself. Alright. Now we used our life points to pay for a Punk monster or Punk effect, so we can use our field spell to draw another card. Alright, and here is basically your end board. So you'll notice I now have a billion cards in hand, and we have our trap card to target one of my opponent's cards and destroy it. But that's not all. So we'll pass the turn here. Wait for my little Monarch player over here to do something. Blah blah blah, come on, summon something, activate a card. Waiting, patiently waiting. Alright, so our opponent has now summoned this monster. Now this monster is terrifying. I'm very scared of it, and I can't use my trap card on it for some reason. So now I'm going to activate my Punk monster to then instantly do a nice little Synchro Summon here. Going into my 2 cards on field. Going into my big Punk monster, which can actually return up to 3 cards on the field back to, is it the hand or deck actually? I actually forgot. Yeah, returns a hand, sorry. So if he has 3 cards on the field, I can return them all straight back to his hand. and I get a card draw from it as well. Because I used the Punk Monster effect. So this field spell has drawn me 3 different cards. I've been able to bounce potentially 3 cards my opponent controls, and of course my trap card can still pop literally anything my opponent activates from here on out. Alright, on to combo number 2. This one just needs a single copy of Z-Admin, and literally any card in hand. Could be any single card at all, you just need it for discard fodder in a second, which we'll show you. Now, in this particular circumstance, I actually got a hold of this card by using my emergency teleport, meaning I didn't actually use my normal summon, so in this scenario, you could do into a bunch of other sort of stuff using your normal summon and extend and just go into a whole bunch of stuff, but just to keep things simple, we're going to pretend we just normal summon this, okay? Just to keep things simple. Alright, so activating my Z-Admin. Going to be searching for a copy of your Foxy. Also pretend once again that my entire hand is all bricks and I didn't already have this Foxy. Alright, activate Foxy, and this is where the discard comes in. Sending it to graveyard using the second effect of the Foxy. So then discard any other card in hand, it could be whatever you like, doesn't matter. So then special summon out to the field a copy of your Punk. And from here, the combo just sort of turns out exactly the same. But you'll notice this time, I'm going second, and there's a reason for that. That's because I want to show you what kind of cool stuff you can do going second, and the end board you can end on, which is a little bit different. Alright, so now we're going to use this dude's effect to, of course, use a fusion summon, using my dude on field. My 2 dudes on field. Alright. Once again, probably should put this in defense, but it doesn't really matter. Giving this card 600 attack, which also doesn't matter because I'm about to use him as a tribute fodder anyway. Alright, summoning out the 2 cards from deck again, the Deer Note and the Wagon, or whatever his name is. Alright, activate your Wagon's effect. Searching for your field spell. Activating your field spell. Then we can just use the 2 cards on field to go into your Synchro. Exactly the same as the last replay, no different so far. Alright, same order, using this one first, and this one to chain block. Special summoning back your dude once again. Alright, putting him on the field. And using this dude to search for your Madame. You don't have to search for your Madame here since you are technically going second, so if you're trying to lethal your opponent here, maybe searching for a trap card isn't that beneficial, but to keep things simple, we're just going to search for the trap card again. Exact same as before. Alright, field spell, going to be banishing a copy of your, whatever it is from graveyard. I was going to banish Deer Note, but picked the wrong one, doesn't really matter. Summoning this card from hand. Use your effect. Then search for your trap card. And then here's where things differ, because you could keep the same end board you have already and pass your opponent's turn, same as last replay, and then pop your opponent's stuff during their turn. Or if you want to just go like you are going second right now, we can actually do a lot of things to sort of lethal our opponent. So first thing we could do is, just like before, we could just hard summon this thing without using this thing's quick effects during our opponent's turn. We just summon this out. And then we could use the effect to then remove the cards my opponent has on his field. But in this particular scenario, I'm going to show you something different you can do. So instead of removing my opponent's entire field, we're going to try and OTK him instead, which means we're going to need a hell of a lot more stats on the field. So we're not going to use this card's effect, we're going to use its second effect. And keep in mind, you can only use one of this card's effects per turn, so you can't use both of them. If you're removing the stuff, you can't use this effect. Alright, so with this effect, we're going to summon back the purple. Or the fusion monster. And from here, we have a level 3 tuner, and we have a level 8 on the field, so we can go straight into our Psychic End Punisher. Alright, the big Giga Chad himself. Slap him on the field. Now, because you use that fusion monster as material for a synchro summon, you can actually activate its effect to target one of your punk monsters and make it be able to do 2 attacks this turn. Alright, so now we have our Psychic End Punisher, which, by the way, if we had another monster on the field, which we actually could because we didn't use our normal summon, so we could just do this. Just to show you that we can do it. Pay 1,000, get rid of this, then target something my opponent controls and banish it. This back row is kind of scary, get rid of that. Alright, from here we can go straight into the battle phase. And at the start of the battle phase, our Punisher is going to gain a billion attack based on the difference between life points. So we've got 4,000, 8,000. That's a trillion more life points to add, or attack to add. Extra 4,000 there. And of course, we can now swing in with this card. And because we use the fusion as material, we can actually swing in with it again. Not that we need to, but now we have a 7,500 attack for lethal damage. Which is, by the way, completely unaffected by my opponent's card effects. Well, it was until we lowered our own life points to be above his, but either way. Oh, sorry, lowered his life points to be below mine, I should say. But it was completely unaffected. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's replays. Hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I still have a whole bunch of videos planned based around the selection packs, including things like Exo-Sister and maybe some of the sprite variants and whatever else I mentioned at the start of this video as to what I've got planned. So if you want to see any of that content, remember to like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.